Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at ABP Ananda Presents Languages Week and powered by Colors Marathi. Language Week is a series of discussions through which we want to capture the wonder of India's language media. It will also touch upon the diversity of India's consumer markets. To begin with, I would like to thank our sponsors, presenting partner ABP Ananda and partner Colors Marathi for supporting us. Now, introducing you to the moderator of the session, Ms. Vanita Kohli Khandekar, author and contributing editor, Business Standard. But before we start, can you please have the AV?
A pandemic couldn't stop us from bringing you the news. A lockdown couldn't contain us from bringing you the updates. Nature's fury couldn't stop us from bringing you the actual picture of severity and sufferings. The gloom around couldn't hold us up when it comes to bringing you how the human race is fighting back. We are the ones to initiate that learning doesn't come to a standstill. No wonder we have emerged as the #1 channel, not just in our category, but across all the genres. ABP Ananda, the #1 channel that stays ahead and keeps you ahead.
Let's see here.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. And thank you, Shrikant, and thank you, AFAX, for giving me this opportunity. Many years back, when I started writing on media, about 20 years back, and I was doing this book on the media business, and one of the things which came as a complete surprise was the amount of gap there was between different languages, different states, as far as not just print or TV, but all media was concerned. Over the years, of course, this gap has narrowed a fair bit in terms of the kind of advertising, and even for the same sort of audience size, there is a gap of sorts. I think this week of looking at languages, and I think by languages, we mean all Indian languages, and I hope it includes Hindi also here, because though Hindi does command a premium, that, just where are we on this right now? And has the change in formats, change of audiences, how much of all of this has impacted in helping in narrowing the gap? Where are we right now? And where are we headed? There are different people from the ecosystem in on our panel. It's a fantastic panel, by the way. I have Ashit Kukian from Radio City. I have music broadcast. Sorry, Ashit, should I say music broadcast or Radio City?
No,
okay. I have Mona Jain from the ABP network, who used to wear another hat some years back at the agency end. I have Harish Bahatia, who heads DB Corp, which is the company which flagship brand for which is Dainik Bhaskar, the newspaper. And Amin Lakhani. Amin, you need to move a bit hard. Yeah, that's fair. Amin Lakhani from Group M. So, Ashit, I'm going by the order in which the screen is showing faces on my screen. So, Ashit, you want to take this first, and then we get into a discussion.
I mean, the subject of differentiator, the language being the differentiator, I think right now doesn't hold good anymore, because I think it all started, traditionally, if you look at it, from a pricing that print adopted, you always had an English which was priced premium to Hindi and so on and so forth. And it continued over a period. I think the way media has evolved, nowhere I think language differentiates the premiumness of the audience delivery that happens.
Okay.
So I think it's purely the attractiveness of the market, the dominant strength of a vehicle or a platform that you're choosing, and the required target group that the advertisers are looking, which decides the price. Having said that, the only challenge that remains is that each of these mediums or vehicles have started at a particular price point, and the way media looks at it, that becomes the start point. Much like how the petrol prices started, you start off at one level without realizing what the value of it is, and then realize it's possibly far, far more worth than what you had started off the pricing. And that's where the challenge lies as far as pricing is concerned, is my take on the subject.
Okay. Poonam, you want to take that?
So yeah, I was kind of thinking of the topic, and I had thought that currently the way the pricing is structured, I think has a lot to do with how media has kind of panned out, and kind of moved since past 30 years. If you give me the opportunity, probably I have been in the industry 30 years, so probably I've seen a bit of evolution of the way the media rates have seen. I always kind of felt that now that when I'm still in the industry, is that rates discussion used to be more strategic. There used to be a bit of a strategic point of view to whatever rates that you arrived at. So you had a national media, which has a tremendous spillover across pan India, maybe with the exception of South, which had their own local media formats. And they were able to kind of probably command a bit of a specific premium, but also not on par in from the cost per thousand with national media, any which way, even that point in time. When Sun TV, we had monopoly, and they were, you just could not do without them if you have to reach out to your consumers. But yet, the cost per thousand that you probably had vis-a-vis the national spillover was much, much lower. Then came, the newbies like the, West Bengal suddenly had their own local content, quality content, and therefore a lot of viewers shifted from national media, to the local media, and therefore they were able to kind of, so you had to have the local GRP to supplement the national spillover, and increasingly that kind of went up. So therefore, because of the kind of demand and therefore reliance of advertisers to kind of be, in that particular state, they were able to kind of, take the pricing up. And they have been able to do that very successfully. I would not say so for instance, for Maharashtra, which also has a typical market like a West Bengal, the way it's kind of panned out. But I believe regional media, per se, historically, the way, the media was looked at, panned out, has not been able to get the premium that they deserve to get for the audiences they kind of deliver on. And therefore, the premium that they should, are entitled to get doesn't come their way at all. So that's my little take. And just quoting an example, for instance, years ago, you had a very large, publisher, for instance, who probably operated in both English and Hindi and other regional media. But the way the pricing was done, even that point in time, English media commanded more premium than probably the regional media. Most likely was giving them same kind of a reach. So in a typical media plan, 60% of the money with same frequency, would go to, say, English media or probably Hindi media, but not to the regional media, despite the fact that probably regional media was delivering higher reach. So I think what we look at right now is very much an implication and a reflection of what really happened those many years ago. You can't distance them. So that's what my take really is.
Harish, I have a lot of questions on that one. Okay. Harish, you want to take this?
Yeah.
Amit will answer them.
I think as over a period of time, what Mona is talking about, that Hindi or the local language was not able to command premium, I think I will slightly disagree with her, because as you move on, if you see last almost 30 years of economic liberalization and how the country has evolved over a period of time, the way I see today in the last 15-20 years, the markets have grown from metro to non-metro. Now the real growth in the economy is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. Because of this growth, the focus is coming back to these markets. And because the focus is coming back to these markets, and the markets are delivering their cost per thousand, the pricing is coming back to these places. I would say that there was a time when you would look upon English as a premium and Hindi as a non-premium. I think not anymore. Today it is being defined by the, what is the kind of per capita cost per thousand you are able to deliver. So I think the growth, because of economic growth in the tier 2, tier 3 towns, I think because the people are now moving away from metro to non-metro, I think because the people have started looking at each and every penny spent on the medium and what is the value they're generating. So the things have already shifted, in my opinion. The things are not there which used to be there at one point of time. And same is the case with whether you look at platform or whether you look at medium. I think it's not differentiating now today. I know that in my earlier stay in radio, I discovered that a national brand of radio was probably charging more than a regional television in Hindi. It was charging more than, the rates were more than any news channel. at one point of time. There was a time which I saw that. So I think it is not about what medium you are. It is about not about what language you are. It is about what you are delivering. End of the day, what is your delivery per se to the advertiser is what matters, I think.
Noted. Amin, you want to weigh in? Amin,
You're on the mute. I mean,
you're on mute.
Still on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was talking and I didn't realize it. Okay, I just went to say that, you know, Harish made some very important points, and I just want to build on those. And my learning, I mean, my initial observation would be over the last 3-4 years. I'll just restrict myself to the last 3-4 years, and then maybe we can go back and stretch the same logic to, you know, even for a foreseeable past. My thing is that pricing has always been determined by a balance of demand and supply. Now, if you look at the demand side of things, you know, it would depend on the vehicle's ability to garner audiences. Within that, its ability to garner, you know, premium audiences versus mass audiences. So I think that's a very, very important thing to kind of consider here. Yes, there are some historical or, you know, legacy, you know, trend lines which continue to happen and which get corrected over a longer period of time. So if a publication or if a TV channel or if a platform in digital has been a leader for a foreseeable future and then he loses market share, perhaps legacy pricing does play into consideration. So I think these three are very, very important. On the other hand, when you're looking at, you know, businesses and brands and the media planners, I think their single day job is to find for that particular brand's audiences, where do I find the most relevant audiences at the most cost-effective price? So I think this entire equilibrium needs to be weighed in from what it delivers to the business's audiences rather than, you know, generic rule for everybody. I mean, some brands may be really, really far. For them, Tamil Nadu will be a very, very important market. But for many brands, Tamil Nadu is not an important market. And therefore, the considerations for both these brands will be very different when they're entering or when they're doing a media plan for that particular market. When I consider that as an Hindi audiences, I think the point is that the language really cuts across multitudes of states. And therefore, the significant size of the audiences. And therefore, the ability to drive a media plan, you know, in that side. And therefore, any vehicle which helps me cuts across Maharashtra on one side to West Bengal on the other side, including the cow belt, I think will gather that many number of audiences and therefore the price equivalent of that. I think these are few factors or, you know, that I would consider while setting up a price or maybe do any kind of price indexing conversation.
You know, okay, let me put it this way. There are several factors, and Harish brought them up, Mona, all of you brought it up, but you know, whether it is the format, whether it's the market, whether it's the language. In this whole thing, how big is perception and how big is metrics? You know, is it perception or purchasing power? I remember in some years back, many years back, I had done this report called the Dhoni effect, which continues even now with Ernst & Young, where I used to work at one point. And in that report, we looked at the purchasing power in small town India, etc. We looked at the next 100 towns. And we realized that while purchasing power is maybe a little lower, but you know, it is rising rapidly, and the volumes are making up in huge numbers. Long time back, I don't know what the state of the report is now. I think we just came out with one earlier this year, Harish, if I'm not mistaken. It was not called Dhoni effect; it was called something else. It was basically a look at small town India. And this whole thing, you know, this whole thing of trying to sell how much of it is purchasing and difference in purchasing, simple economic metrics, how much of it is perception? Because I find media planners live in this Bombay, Delhi world where, you know, they think that if their driver and their mate sees a show, then it's a big hit.
You know, can I, you know, so while I agree to a point made by Amin, essentially says depends on demand and supply, you know, and therefore what is the kind of pricing a market can kind of garner because of the reach or, you know, the relevance or, you know, affinity, you know, probably they are delivering to the consumers. But having said that, like what you said, the perception. For instance, I can give a case. While we are, we can give a case in for say Ananda, of a news channel. Now it has huge amount of reach. The kind of relevance and the kind of affinity it has amongst the Bengali audiences is very, very big. I mean anything coming in from from the channel or from is almost like the spoken word. Our editor has a huge amount of credibility in the marketplace. But we belong to a particular genre called news. We're benchmarked on a particular kind of rate structure. We're not able to combine so therefore there is reach, there's frequency, and there's also perception, which is very, very big and very, very critical, for a very culturally sound state like West Bengal. But the kind of rate that probably we're able to kind of pitch ourselves on does not come at parity, with probably similar kind of genres who are in similar kind of reach,
But what about within your network?
It's been benchmarked. So within my network, I'm able to see it's like one of the points I saw somewhere was it's like a flagship brand for me, yes, because it has the highest reach in my network portfolio. But having said that, if I have to kind of benchmark it to to the channels or of different genres, not news channels, because that is not my comparison at all. I'm much bigger in terms of share than anybody else in the marketplace. But if I have to to a closer kind of channels, probably like a movie channel, I'm still not able to command the pricing that I deserve to get because of perceptual connotation saying that they belong to news and they are movies and they are GC and so on and so forth. So I think somewhere down the line, that so it doesn't really so while quantitatively you kind of measured, but qualitatively I don't think so any kind of marks are given, any kind of is given to you for that.
If Mona Jain is watching the English channel in Calcutta, she's still more precious or more she commands a better rate for her eyeballs than if Mona Jain is watching a Bengali channel in Calcutta. Correct? Is that correct?
Absolutely. So I mean, I would ask.
How far wide are we there?
Not really. Not really. Not really. I think the planning sciences have really evolved. If I were to say this word, also the accountability of many clients, for example, many of our brands who want to advertise are looking at I mean, if it's a particular market, and if all audiences, for example, if I have, if for me, whether the person comes from West Bengal or whether he comes from Tamil Nadu or comes from Maharashtra, if to me the consumer is the same, and my entire logic is that then where do I find maximum number of people at the minimum amount of cost? I think that's the primary agenda or the primary drive of any media, smart media plan. So that's one part. The second part is that, but if there are two media planners, and for him, the first one has a choice of 3 consumers, and the second one has just a choice of 1 consumer because his brand is not available outside of one particular market, then he's forced to dwell or optimize within that particular market. So I think that is a very, very important consideration. The second is that yes, beyond the number crunching and the value, I think there is an empirical, experience of how different genres or different ways in which you're connecting with your audiences has resulted into business growth. So, for example, many people argue that why is TV still holding to such a big lion's share of spends in India media industry, wherein there are multiple other mediums who have right now come and started delivering significant audiences, if not more.
Why? What is holding? Sorry, I missed the first sentence, Amin.
I'm saying what is holding the largest share on television advertising, despite the fact that if you see, I mean, digital has come up in a very, very strong way, or in some of the markets, non-television medium put together is delivering very, very high reach. But one has to understand that the way in which media delivers on business is quite complex. One is the single function of reach. The second would be, yes, there are barometers of understanding quality of content. I mean, there is only that much that you will be able in a position to understand. But also in terms of what formats are delivering versus what formats are not delivering. For example, you might find that, Facebook has the highest reach in any particular geography in the country right now, if you look at it. But then when you get into a format, there are a lot of challenges or reservations that many people would have, saying that video format really, really work onto this. And India being a country, there are a lot of researches which show that, perhaps storytelling, emotional storytelling up to 15 seconds or 20 seconds is the minimum that is required to connect with the audience. Now, that's not something that I'm saying, but of course, brands have figured out all. And therefore, these are the considerations that will come into play, and it will keep lagging.
But you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more with you. Sorry, I mean, you were talking.
No, correct.
Sorry. I thought you. So you're absolutely right. But that has not been the experience of people bring in Ashit and Harish. And what has your experience been?
So, I mean, to a large extent, I think I agree with Mona that, to whatever, I mean, would like to say, there is still a mindset of genre-based pricing that is happening. I mean, and I think, I mean, touched upon the legacy pricing bit of it, again, giving back the example of various mediums. For example, when you talk about the engagement, and since right now I'm representing radio, let me tell you that we have done a whole lot of engaging content, especially in this pandemic period, where we see a lot of communication happening from the government, from ourselves, as to how do we take care of ourselves during this pandemic. And we see a huge amount of response happening from our listeners. Now, I'm a little surprised that when we talk about engagement of audiences, and there is enough proof to show that there is engagement, and it's there in the figures that is coming, but still there is a mindset that, oh, this is radio as a medium. So in my mind, I've
the format is impacting the perception.
I've formatted myself, much as I want to believe that I'm being fair in my media choices. I don't think it's coming across by and large. You may have exceptions. You may have reasons for it. Again, it may be a one-sided approach from my side, but there are enough reasons to believe. And genre-based pricing, and I completely agree with Mona that if it's the same audience, and why about cross markets? If she has given an example of Bengal, within Bengal, if through a Bengali news channel, I'm getting an X audience, and if the same market is giving me a GC audience, why is it there's so much of disparity? I agree with Amin that there is a engagement of the kind of content
and also brand objectives.
Yeah, I'll just come in over here, and I completely understand where Ashit is coming from, by the way, and I completely understand that there is Mona, and once she shifted the poles from one side of the audience to the other side.
Mona, there you go.
Yeah, there is a different view. Yeah, Mona. So I completely respect and understand that. But let's look at something like this. For example, let's look at IPL. And I think there is enough debate. I think the most debatable conversation is sports, investment on sports, especially on cricket in India, and especially on something that something like IPL. Now, how do you evaluate an investment in a property like IPL? And I'm just saying that there are a lot of factors which go into play when you want to make such huge investments into a property like that. A normal client would ask you some 250 questions to make a 5 lakh or a 25 lakh or a 50 lakh investment. And in a pandemic arena where that money had completely dried up for at least a couple of months, that businesses were tanking, and slowly and steadily post June you saw businesses struggling to come back. And we were having multiple conversations with clients who wanted to spend 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crore rupees of campaign, and seeing whether that is working for my business or no. And suddenly IPL gets announced. Within that barometer, IPL gets announced, and you see within 2 weeks of that conversation, you have 13 brands signed up, sponsored at a multiplier of 20 of investment on that. Now you see, if I were to say that what he is giving, IPL is giving audiences, and I give a fraction of audience, and therefore if I apply the same premium to my Anand, or if I apply the same premium to my radio, I think those logics, I think the jury is already out that those are not the only consideration when you look at this. That's one part. Having said that, I just want to also bring in to support voice as a medium. Google came a couple of years back and said video, voice, vernacular is the next big thing, because they started going in that route, and I completely understand where it is. But today, if you see, even in digital, people have gone full circle back, and they've gone onto this voice platform. Today, all the new top end technological innovations are happening as far as voice platform is concerned, because that's the only way to connect masses. Now the point is that Are brands investing on voice? The answer is yes. Are brands investing behind FM radio? I don't know, because when it comes to FM radio, unfortunate part is that if it's a national brand, or if it's, who's advertising and all of that, radio seems to be giving, and if it's an FMCG or a completely mass brand, then radio seems to be giving very little incremental reach over, TV plus, plus some of the digital platforms that we have. And therefore the job over there for those brands is that how much incremental reach am I driving, given that yes, there is engagement and all that. If I'm a brand of one city or multiple cities where, some of the radio stations are completely on board, and we have brands where we invest significant amount of money over there. But there are significant other brands where, despite the fact that, the radio performs to the extent, they're unable to justify or, unable to recommend to a client, saying that, your next lot of investment will go on to radio. So I think there are considerations in both cases.
Got it.
Can I step in?
One sec, Mona, one sec. I need to get Harish in, but before
Yes.
we get him in, I want to just tell the audience, we've got a lot of people there, and we've got people, I think, on the Facebook page also. Please start sending in your questions, because we'll start asking them. First, I want Harish to react to my earlier question, and then Mona, please base.
So,
Yeah.
my point, I have 2 points to make here. I think I partly agree with what Ashit is saying and what Amin is saying. Largely, I have professionally encountered this in my experience, that many a time the client who is advertising with you, till the time he is consuming that particular medium, he doesn't consider medium to be relevant. And case in point is, it is there. It is there. I've seen in radio, I worked for 10 years in radio. I've seen that if a client himself is not using radio, he thinks his target audience is also not using radio. It's like this, that when I go for fishing, I will offer the fish dal chawal and not what fish want to eat. So this is what the people have an idea about. Oh, radio, but I don't listen. My dear, we're not discussing about you, we're discussing your target audience. Are they listening?
Like TV is dead. Who watches TV? How many people tell me this? And I'm like, which world do you live in?
Correct. So that is one thing which I think is, there is always a point that you have a perception in your mind as a buyer, and you feel that, okay, I buy this newspaper, I buy this TV, I like this audience, I like this anchor, and hence this is good. That maybe you can only attribute 5 to 10% of that perception. The reality is that whichever platform, whichever channel, whatever medium you are, you have to deliver at the end of the day the CPT. If you don't deliver, you don't get it.
That's
And
why
the
coming
point
up
that Amin
that.
made, and well, just one last point.
Yeah,
And what point Amin made, radio by say is delivering audience much more than any other medium in any relevant market. The challenge with the radio industry is not what you think. I mean, the challenge here is that they have yet not developed a fully measurement system which can be respected.
That was
by
one of my questions. Metrics are a measurement.
That is the only, and that is the challenge of a radio industry, not per se Ashit or anybody else. It is an industry which has to come together on a single platform and agree that, okay, let's have a measurement system which is bought by everyone, all the stakeholders.
That's a huge thing for languages.
Thank you, Harish.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harish, for bringing that up, because I was waiting for that pushback to come in and perhaps, leading this conversation, and I'm sure Vanita will take it up now.
Yeah. Mona, you wanted to say something, then we move on.
Harish just said it all, I guess. But my view probably is a little more conventional, but I kind of believe, that. So I think the rate conversation, like I said earlier in the beginning, also was that it was much more a planning and a buying kind of a conversation. It did come from a strategic intent of consumers you were buying for, which market you were in. There was a lot more rigor in terms of data, and also looking at things not only from qualitative perspective also. So we had these best practices, which was, I don't know, medium is a medium. I mean, I'm sure he knows all about that. It helped to evaluate various media formats. What it stood for from a consumer and a market engagement point of view. Basis that, what you were seeking from them, in terms of what kind of value, what kind of delivery, what kind of output, you were seeking for them, for your advertiser, you would obviously kind of, arrive at a benchmark, which is obviously looking at what the market scenario was. I think increasingly the cost, so therefore it was more strategic, and therefore that's how the rates were benchmarked. And I'm here coming to rate conversation here, specifically which market, gets more and which gets less. So that was really, the thing, but now most of the conversation really is, I think it is no longer in the purview of the marketing also, or planning also. It's become more, so once the planning gets done, at the agency level and the marketing plan gets signed off, it becomes a more transactional discussion. So it is all about, rates coming through various, third-party audit benchmarks, procurement pressures or agency KPIs. So I can believe you lose. While it's very good to say, that we're looking at things, in a CPT way or in a qualitative way or perception, whatever. But I don't think so. At the end of the day, when you are in the marketplace, the pricing is governed by a lot many factors which are probably not even in your control. So it has become more very financial, transactional discussion and conversation.
In fact, in many companies, it is the purchase departments which do this stuff. So, it totally goes haywire. Sorry, Mona, did I interrupt you? I assume. Mona, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep. Okay, there's somebody who's asked a very relevant question and probably pulling us back to the main point of the topic here. Can someone please give a sense of the state versus state disparity in ad rates? Please give some examples of where things are most unfair. I will use that word in quotes because unfair is also a matter of perception in this case, if possible. Which geographies need fixing? I think anybody can tackle this one, either from the media perspective or from the agency perspective. I'm very happy.
I think sorry, Amin probably, because I think
Amin doesn't think anything is unfair. He's getting all the rates he wants. So.
Yeah,
sorry,
I think that is, I think for each state, if you look at it, there is so much of, India is perhaps the country where.
Sorry, Amin, you're frozen.
Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yeah, we are good now. We can hear you.
Yeah. I think India is perhaps one of those countries where the television addict has been healthily growing year on year basis. So I think that's a market where demand is steadily up. There are people where, like Harish mentioned originally earlier, that there is a requirement, or brands are moving from metros into interiors and all of that, and a few of our brands have always been pan India and all of that, and therefore regionalization or the ability to talk to audiences in their own language, in many of these markets, which was not available earlier, and if it's available right now, it's a welcome sign. But it is, there are a lot of considerations that we need to do. For example, it will be very, very, how do I say that? For example, why is FTA pricing at a particular level versus paid GC pricing? If I were to just give you an example of that, it's primarily because the way in which the regulations that come into India, get announced, and by the time it is getting executed, and by the time those things start getting reflected into measurement systems, there is a lag period to all of these things before it gets corrected versus it doesn't get corrected. So I think there are multitudes of factors. For example, which market are we talking about? What's the per capita GDP over there? What's the and that's the pure measure of driving consumption in those markets. And how many players are actually vying for those audiences versus some markets where there is a huge set of retail advertisers which are only operating in those markets, and they want to come and spend on television of in the local channels, and then therefore they take in a share of advertising from those particular channels, and therefore the reliance of those channels on national advertisers or large advertisers is that much less, and therefore there is a premium that gets worked up bottoms up. And therefore there are multiple factors. It will be very, very unfair to kind of rush them through one single stroke, saying this is where it is, and this is what I see.
Got it. There is a question which I wanted to address, but this is not the full question. The question is, how does this pandemic affect advertising agencies? But I would say, how does this pandemic affect whether it's a perceived gap or the rate gap or whatever we choose to call it, has it aggravated it? Or has it actually shown that, you know, people are clinging to their own languages? And for example, I think Zee did a lot of work even during the pandemic on its on its non-Hindi language business. A whole lot of companies did very well in terms of viewership also. Though I don't think we were talking about it, Ashit, and myself and Mona, that the volumes did not reflect in the money which came in finally. But how has the pandemic and these last 6 months, what has it meant to this rate difference across geographies, languages? Harish, you want to, Harish, Asit, Mona, any of you?
So I think from AdX point of view, we have to kind of look at it, you know, I mean, regional is actually the one which has shown a growth in ad volume.
Correct.
While there has been decline in the national media, which is reflection of the fact that people are kind of getting closer and touching more, you know, with the regional media. So the regional media actually probably, you know, in my mind, if I look at the AdX completely, you know, has a little bit less affected than, you know, the national media. So that would be my thing, you know, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else wants to take that, or we'll move on to the next one?
I'm just saying that I think people have closely monitored and, you know, observed the movements of consumers across the country, and I think there is a close watch which is happening, you know, as we speak. And I think there has been some, you know, people kind of said that, you know, there are tectonic shifts and, you know, these will be permanent. I mean, I'm not somebody who's a believer of that, but yes, those shifts will have an impact on, you know, in some form in the future of how media will get consumed in the country. Because if I was not an OTT, you know, user, or if I was not somebody who sampled another channel because I was so glued onto my own set of programs, I think the pandemic opened up and, you know, democratized all those things, wherein you knew that original content is not happening. The only thing that you will see is, you know, news channels and, you know, the shouting matches which go on after 7 p.m. over there, and, you know, I mean, stuff like that. So you went out and people experimented those, and that experimenting period was a longish amount of time. It was more than 21, you know, at least 3-4 weeks at least, where you sampled, or you had the opportunity of sampling a lot of different type of content. You went online, you read newspapers, you kind of got PDFs of newspapers, and, you know, I mean, people who were really wanting to read their own newspapers and were literate, digitally literate, you know, some or the other way, found their news on online, and therefore there was attraction over there.
Correct.
They sampled OTT for some very different type of content and all of that. I think these are things which are here to stay with. Yes, people have gone back to watching original content on TV, and, you know, so those things will continue. And I think now it will be between who gives a better content at what price, and, you know, and all of those things. But I think there are consumer shifts that we should be mindful of during this entire pandemic period, and I think they will drive, or they will shift the media mix going forward.
Okay. You know, there's a question here, and this happened, I think, 5 years back when BARC came, and the sample sort of spread a bit into other regions, languages, etc., far better. And I also think semi-rural and rural much better than it was earlier. Has the coming of BARC and the broadening of sampling base been beneficial for some languages more than others in terms of ad rates and ads and ad rates? And you know, to extend that, has that therefore had a spillover effect on other media in that region? So, for example, if Bhojpuri is now being measured much better than BARC, by BARC, has that had a spillover on radio or on digital in those areas? I don't know.
I think.
Yes.
Mona, you want to go?
No, I'm just kind of thinking aloud. So maybe West Bengal was one market, probably. You would probably, you know it better, you know. But I think it was one market which actually gained from this, you know.
Yeah. I think there is a significant amount of, you know, light on in terms of this entire darkness. And my key example for BARC coming into play would be this entire measurement system, or, you know, throwing up of, you know, viewership patterns of rural India. And I think that has really helped, you know, shake up a lot of beliefs or systems which were happening before that. You know, before that, you assume that people are generally watching. For example, a large number of people I knew, they thought that if it's rural, there is a significant amount of Doordarshan that is getting viewed, and everybody believed that. And, you know, if you looked at it, you figured out once the rating system was out, and we thought initially, maybe it will get corrected or once the sample size gets stabilized and all of that. But I think it continued to tell us that, even in rural India, there were a very, very differentiated viewing patterns which the consumers were doing.
Sorry, is Amin still talking? We've lost him.
Sorry, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, so I think patterns across the country, as far as rural viewership is concerned, whether it was Tamil Nadu where we saw, Sun really, really doing well, or whether it was Hindi-speaking market where you figured out that, yes, some of the very leading channels were amazingly well penetrated, in the rural heartlands are viewed by, audiences.
Yeah.
So I think, and of course, there is a slew of channels which then, came up as an opportunity for broadcasters to launch in those markets, and they've done the right thing, and I think they're reaping the benefits.
Shemaru, Dangal, of course, showed the way, and a whole lot of the other FTs. I'm going to come back here to, especially to Harish and Ashit, and perhaps Mona. There's a question here which I think we can tweak a little and ask them. The person says we need assertive approach to present regional press in mainstream. I usually don't use the word regional because they are different languages of India. I am saying this because I worked in Japanese, Mandarin and Portuguese media in the last 15 years. I could see the confidence in presenting them as a solid press and not in apologetic ways. My point is that and Bhaskar, Jagran, I think have done a fantastic job of this, of showing and sharing very confidently that this is our audience. And they've, they, in the mid-90s, they actually spread out to the homes and the cities where the big media agencies were and communicated with them aggressively, actively on what they were. Do you see less of that now, Ashit? Because, radio is this little medium, always seems to be under little pressure. So, do you see less of that? Should you be doing more of that at an industry level? Harish?
Harish can also take it because well equipped to answer because he's seen both the sides. But yeah, Harish.
So I think I have been very vocal when I was in radio also that radio industry as a whole has to take up this cause on two things. One is evangelizing the medium, and two is, bringing the currency to the medium. See, the many people when I used to go to clients in corporate markets or in agencies, I found that many of them were not even aware what a medium can do for them. And this evangelizing a medium is a job of an industry and not the agency or the clients. The way digital has been evangelized, it has been evangelized by likes of Google and Facebook and all that. It is not that the people were born to understand what digital can do for them. So that cause industry has to take. And obviously, if you want to take that cause, you will have to also stand together and come to the one unified system of measurement, which all the stakeholders want to agree on. I think this is where the biggest flaw of the radio industry is. Radio industry, I think, I would say radio is one of the biggest tools today, especially in the pandemic also, because all you needed was a city connect, and this was the highest a radio can provide. After the newspaper, it is a radio which is live 24/7, and people are able to connect with the local jockeys, and they are already making a huge difference in these markets. But what they lack is probably the attention of the big players, the attention of the media agencies, because they don't bring to the table that how do they measure what are they spending. I think that's a major gap which the industry has to address. The sooner they address, the better it will be. They'll be able to really see a lot of growth because of that.
Okay. Ashit, do you want to take that? I think we're running out of time. We have been allowed 5 minutes extra because we started late.
No, I think on the evangelizing part, I think a lot has been done by all players in radio. But I think the larger challenge is the measurability. And that again, cost becomes a huge challenge.
So Ashit, when I say evangelizing, is that can you create one website which has all the case studies of radio in different markets? We don't have that. I proposed it 5 years back. Why don't you have one website of radio industry where you can bring case studies? Let people see it. Let the world see it, what you're doing. There are so many good case studies. I know for myself, but we don't come together and put it there. It's almost no cost.
Well, I can say this, I can say what you're saying, Harish, for several other media in India, including films, which is getting lambasted left, right, center by every news channel and every troll in this country, but has not stood up and spoken for itself properly, except for our producers here. So, various media in India have this same problem. IBF came together finally because they wanted advertisers to pay on time. So big broadcasters got into the act. So everybody will have their IBF moment and, possibly start standing up for themselves aggressively. But Debashish, how are we on time? We should wrap up, or can we take one more question?
Sure, ma'am. We can take one more question.
One more question, great, because I have something like 10 questions here, which are very nice, I think. Some of them are really good. Somebody was asking me whether digital should be a benchmark for pricing, and I'm not sure whether I agree with that, because digital is so popular. But
cannot be.
It cannot be, I agree. But the thing I wanted to ask was, don't you guys feel the need for, especially in publishing or even in TV, for blended metrics? I find it very difficult because I'll have to get some data from ComScore, I get some data from BARC, and then I look at it and I say, okay, Sony has this much audience, and then Sony Live has so much audience, and therefore roughly, they have, it's very difficult. Has that thing, does that help languages, not the big ones? The big ones, the mass ones are already well established. But if you looked at some of the upcoming languages, just combining blended metrics, all of this, does that help? Does that take you anywhere? Because somebody mentioned digital here on the side, and I wanted to.
Also, it goes beyond that also now, because now the content is just not available, say, on television. It's available on other media formats also.
Correct.
It's actually aggregating of audiences that you'll be able to garner through, all formats put together for the content that you are playing out. So, for instance, news channels, they do kind of, there is a content offering happening to various OTT platforms. Am I able to monetize that or not? Is it able to kind of get quantified or not? Yes, I think it's a very, very critical discussion and very, a significant move that one has to progress to be able to really monetize what you are producing and get the value for it. I guess so.
If you're looking at Bangla audience, for example, would you only look at it from the prism of TV? Then I suppose it depends on the product, category, stage of life, whole lot of those variables. Correct?
Yeah, so you need to have a matrix, because till the time you don't have a matrix, you won't get, while some people from buying side or, advertising side, advertisers may respect that particular number, and give you the value for it. But everybody mostly relies on a matrix to be able to kind of get the confidence to kind of go authentically kind of buy onto that particular thing. So yes, I think we very do need a,
Yeah, Ashwin?
On a lighter note, I think people like Amin would be using it as a proprietary tool to kind of do their buying. They're happy to keep it to themselves.
You never know, he's probably looking at it right now and laughing at us.
Getting ground
I was waiting for No, but I think it is a complicated it's a complicated exercise. Firstly, second is that in absence of a single source data, life really gets complicated, and I think just getting to run BARC or BARC trying to do saying I will do AV measurement through ACOM has not really seen a significant amount of progress as much as we would have liked, because those are real challenges on grassroots when you want to bring measurement into and therefore there will be these multitudes of challenges, and yes, there is a job of whether it's FFI or ISA to come together and see how we should push this the measurement across mediums together. But yeah, agencies in their own fashion, especially somebody like us, do that.
There you go,
on a day-to-day basis. And therefore, if you ask me, is the principle that is same? The answer is yes. Now, the only other way to do it is to find equivalence between how much investment of TV is equivalent to an investment on radio. I think that answer is also not there. And I'm just saying, if tomorrow Ashit comes to me with a study saying that, I've done this in Bombay market or I've done this in Maharashtra, that if you spend 500 GRPs on TV, you will need to spend X amount of money on radio for me to give you the same impact. Now, if there is some kind of an equivalence that starts coming up. It will really change the way in which people are seeing and evaluating media. And it's not going to be possible for small or medium advertisers because everybody is trying to run their business in the most efficient and an effective manner. And then therefore, what the client will do is follow the lead path of resistance, saying, okay, wherever measurement is available, I think I will go with that particular medium.
Go back to that. Great.
And we'll keep debating this in the vicious circle, saying people are not doing this because it's qualitative, but there is qualitative because there's no measurement. And and if there's no measurement, then it's your word versus mine, and then all radio channels will come and tell me in some form that we are number one. So then I will have
because it's qualitative, the rate differences arise also. Some element of quality. Okay, we'll have to stop this at this stage. Thank you so much. That was a fun discussion. I enjoyed it. Sorry, Amin, I think you've had some problems. Thanks, Harish, Ashit, Mona.
Thanks, Ashit.
Thank you, Ashit. Thank you, Ashit. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Harish as well.
Thank you.